The power of prayer. Is there anyone here who has not tried the power of prayer yet? I highly recommend it. And oftentimes when I talk about it, it's more for trying God. A lot of times we may see people go through things, or we hear other people's testimonies, and we're curious if those same things would work for us. And the song simply says to pray on. Pray on. The battle is won on your knees. So if you have not tried prayer, I'm asking you to try that today. Thank you, Sister Harrison. I want to take a moment to thank the youth department for asking me to speak today. Thank my pastors for taking a break from their busy schedule to allowing me to stand at the podium. And my AV team laughs because we have an inside joke on that. My elders for praying with me, really appreciate that, taking the time out to pray with me and to give me God's blessing on this day. Turn with me, if you will, to Genesis 4, verses 1 to 10, our scripture reading that was read this morning. I'm going to read in your hearing, just reading. We're going to start with Genesis 4. All right, here we go. Now Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have acquired a man from the Lord. Then she bore again, this time his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in the process of time it came to pass that Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground to the Lord. Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and their fat. And the Lord respected Abel and his offering, but he did not respect Cain and his offering. Now Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. So the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? And why has your countenance fallen? If you do well, if you do well, will you not be accepted? That's the question. And if you do not do well, sin lies at your door, and its desire is for you, but you should rule over it. Now Cain talked with Abel, his brother, and it came to pass that when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, where is your brother? He said, I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? And God said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Bow your heads with me as we contemplate this question today. Am I my brother's keeper? Heavenly Father, as I stand before you this morning, I ask that you remove me from this podium. Remove myself and all my thoughts. Lord, you and I sat this week, and you know what I wanted to say. But because of the relationship we have, I know it's what you need your people to hear. So I ask that you remove me and allow them to hear you when I speak, see you when I move, and feel you through this word. This is my prayer in your son's name. Amen. Amen. Now, we don't know the full details of the story, but I believe we can assume that by the time when Cain did what he did to Abel, they were some kind of grown, right? Based on Cain's response, he was at a point of despair and frustration. You know, Cain was the eldest son of Adam and Eve, and he was a farmer, and his brother Abel was a keeper of the sheep. Now, I don't know if you have like sibling rivalries, but for me, usually when your parents give you a chore, you're trying to weigh which one is the most work, which one is the easiest to do. So if Cain was the tiller or the farmer, and Abel was the watcher of the sheep or the keeper of the sheep, which job did you think was easier? Now, some may assume that the keeper of the sheep was easier because you just, sat there and watched sheep. Kind of, right? And then, the tiller or the farmer had to grate the ground, plant the seeds. I kind of like flipped that comparison to my AV department, to the AV department. So the tiller or the farmer is the person on the camera, right? The person who sets up the mic, passes the mic around. The floor manager, that's the farmer, right? The keeper of the sheep is the person in the booth, sitting in the booth. Now, if you've worked in the AV room, you know that the people on the floor can't wait to get in the room because they're like, man, this person was just sitting down in the room, just chilling. That's what they think, right? So in Cain's mind, he could have thought that Abel had a simple job, right? And his job to work the ground was a lot of work, sweat and tears. The same way in here sometimes when we had young people training to work in the room, they were like, man, I can't wait to sit around that board. I can't wait to sit in the room. And then when they got in the room, they're like, yo, this is a lot of concentration. Different jobs, same weight of work. And maybe Cain didn't realize that at the time that his brother had the same amount of work. Whereas his was physical stress, his brother's was mental stress to watch the sheep and to make sure they stayed. And if they strayed away, he had to go looking for them because they probably didn't have a mind of their own. But his brother probably looked at that as, oh, he's doing light work. Right? So that could have frustrated him. I'm just saying, it could have, And then the parents sometimes don't help, because if you're the firstborn, you kind of like your parents put this whole weight on you as the firstborn, right? And they don't mean to do it, but sometimes it feels that by the time the second one is born, they have a hang of things, and so they don't stress as much, right? How many of us are firstborn? I mean, you can put your hand up if you want to. I don't want to call you out in that, but you might feel a way that no matter what happens when the second child comes, it's like you feel irrelevant. You're no longer called by your first name. You're so-and-so's big brother or so-and-so's big sister, right? You kind of lost your name. I know what it feels like. I mean, as a parent, I lost my name. As my kids were born, I became Wayne's dad, Chloe's dad. It's like my name is Owen, but that's what happened. You may have, after marriage, you became Nigel's wife, no longer Wendy. It's just these little things. You became Javeer's grandmother. Just these things that happen to you, right? But we're going to stick with siblings today because we're talking about our brother's keeper, right? So they were emphasizing siblings and the rivalry that could manifest, right? When favoritism seems to enter the room. Now, I don't believe that God has any favorite. I mean, anyone here think God has a favorite? You think God has a favorite? All right. Well, the devil wants us to think that you are and I'm not. That there's a separation, and he thinks about you more than he thinks about me. And then the mind games begin. But see, God warns us that sin sits at our heart's door, just waiting to enter. So when you don't do, or when you allow things to happen, sin is like, hey, I got some options for you. But God told Cain, sin sits at your door. But I just want to let you know, you should rule over it. Don't let it take over you. You see, in my history, the sibling rivalry started with Cain and Abel. But it didn't stop there. Esau and Jacob, Leah and Rachel, Joseph and his brothers, everyone knows that story. Abimelech and his brothers. Each time, there was an expectancy of the older one to be an example, to share guidance to the younger one. Now, the interesting thing about, when you're doing things and you're communicating with God, he does these things where he's like, God, I need something right here. And I'm trying to figure out what goes right here. And when I was thinking about the guidance and the responsibilities put on the older ones. And I'm saying to myself, my dad never really had that conversation with me. I don't remember my sister, having that pressure, to be that example for me. And I'm trying to think like my dad was really like he was hard. He wanted to make sure you understood, what was going on. A lot of times people thought he was light because, he let things happen, but he always give you that warning, speak it out to you. And then when it happened, he'd be like, I told you. I told you that last week, right? He seemed like a genius, right? So the funny thing is, I'm talking about, the older being responsible and being that example to share guidance. And I was having a conversation with my cousin yesterday, my cousin Steve, and he said to me, when I was younger, Uncle did this with me. And then it hit me. Oh, so that's why by the time it was my turn, he was cool with me doing things with Steve, because he had already laid the foundation in what was the older version of my brother. You see that? So my dad didn't have to repeat himself to me because he had already went through that with Steve, and he trusted him with me. Kind of cool, right? But that's the idea of the whole sibling thing, because when you're the older one, your parents put a lot of work into you, right? And then when your brother or sister comes along, they're like, all right, I want you to share that knowledge with them. Because what we need to understand is that as you get older, there's a disconnect between parent and child. And that sibling may be the one that's keeping that link together. So it's a responsibility. Now, some of us don't want that responsibility. Sometimes it just seems like a lot of work. So we don't want to focus on, oh, now I got to take care of my brother. Oh, now I got to take care of my sister. Now I have to do this. Oh, my parents don't want to do this anymore. That's not the way it's supposed to be. So that's why the question is posed today, am I my brother's keeper? And I believe I am, because you see, that is God's desire, that siblings live in harmony and love for each other. But there are times when we get caught up in the feelings and the response, the reaction, the attitude. Am I my brother's keeper? Am I responsible for my siblings' whereabouts? Truth is, you are. We are. In our family's hierarchy, the eldest is responsible for the youngest. Georgiani's responsible for Elizabeth. Naomi's responsible for Georgiani, Elizabeth, Joshua. Dimitri's responsible for Jordan. Whew, it's a lot of people. Are you your brother's keeper? Yes, you are. You see, but sometimes it gets frustrating. Sometimes it seems like all the weight is on you. Your younger sibling never appears to do anything wrong or get in trouble. At the same time, everything seems to fall on you. Have you ever been there? Where it's like the things your parents say, don't. Your sibling comes along, and you're like, what? When that was me? Oh my goodness, when that was me? Why is it so easy? Could it be that your parent is expecting you to say, hey, don't do that? But see, the devil allows you to think the negative side of it, to say, hey, I never got away with that. And your parents are saying, help me out here. Show your brother and sister how to do it. But we get caught in the feeling, in the emotion of the moment. We don't see that we are here to help each other, to be each other's keeper. Here's the thing. Love, respect, and trust are major pieces of caring for someone other than yourself. Love, respect, and trust. See, I need to love you to respect you. And I need to respect you to trust you. You see, I love very easily. You know, Pastor Lee, I had a rough childhood. So for me, loving is easy. You know, because when I was younger, I mean, Mom, don't say nothing. When I was younger, Pastor Lee, I felt like I was the only one wearing glasses. So all the kids used to pick on me, used to tease me. I was telling someone I worked the other day, I would break my glasses and go home and say I got into a fight. I would scratch up my glasses and say I fell on some rocks, because I felt like I was the only one wearing glasses, and people were tough. Nowadays, glasses is like an in thing. I got my glasses. Yeah, I can't see. Yeah, I got my... But back then, it was like, oh, you got glasses. Oh, look how thick your glasses. So I felt, like I was hated. I didn't like it. I didn't like the feeling. So for me, it was always like, man, I wish people would just get to know me. If they got to know me, they would see past what they think I am, who they think I am, right? So I grew up loving, because I never wanted anyone to feel that way, the way I felt. I never wanted anyone. So it's easy for me to love someone. You come in my circle, you do 2 or 3, man, you're cool. And I love you, right? It's easy for me to do that. right? I was able to flip my negative into a positive, right? Because I didn't, like I said, I didn't want anyone to feel that way. You know, I love Brother Bonnie. And Brother Bonnie, allow me to be personal for a second, for a minute. I don't like funerals. I don't like going to funerals. No one really knows why I don't like going, but I'm going to tell you today why I don't like going to funerals. See, a friend of mine died when I was really little. And that friend was married to Brother Bonnie. I sat here as a child on that balcony corner watching Brother Bonnie pour his heart out. And I sat there as a child and I said, I never want to cry like that. Ever. So I never want to go to a funeral. I never want to see it. And that's the way I grew up. People say, oh, you went to the funeral? If I have to. I never wanted to go because as a child, but I never told anyone that, right? I never had a brother's keeper. And that's what we're going to get into today, right? So I love very easily because I want to get away from that negative side, right? It should be natural for us to be our brother's keeper. I mean, after all, that's what God is, right? God is love, and he made us to be caring and kind to others. God showed us how to be a keeper. We know what caring things to do and what to think. There's also evil that requires trust, right? Not only God. Trust my brother. Trust my sister. It's a no-brainer when you fulfill love, respect, and trust. We should all think about being accountable for each other. You know, Jesus took the accountability of our sins and placed them on his shoulders at the cross. Who do you love? Who do you respect? Who do you trust? You can start with that. And those people could be the ones you initially care for. But I'm here to tell you today, we should care for everyone, especially our church brothers and our church sisters. See, respect is a term that defines the feeling of holding a person at high esteem, valuing their opinion greatly. Watch this one now. Trust is defined as reliance on the integrity, strength, ability, surety of a person or thing, whilst respect is defined as a deep admiration for someone's abilities, qualities, and achievements. If you love me, you respect me. If you respect me, you'll trust me. So if you're walking around wondering why people don't trust you, let's work it backwards. If you're wondering why people don't trust you, it's because they don't respect you. And if you're wondering why people don't respect you, it's because they don't love you. Think about that. We're wondering, where's the love? We're wondering, I don't get any respect, but we never put them in that order or understand how they incorporate into each other. I remember growing up, hearing, they don't have no respect for the older people. They don't have no respect for themselves. I have to love myself to respect myself. I have to love you to respect you. And at the end of the day, I can trust your guidance. You see, I think there's a gap between understanding what respect is and trust. I grew up in this church, so I know young people's struggles. See, I didn't know that Brother Ricky had struggles as a young person in this church. I didn't know till Pastor Kennedy came in the other day and said, Brother Stokes, you remember our fights? I was like, what? They had fights too? Right? So it's not just me. It wasn't just my generation. Brother Dixon, you remember Brother Dixon? I miss him so much. Brother Dixon loves playing the guitar. Do you know Brother Dixon got kicked out of church for playing the guitar? Did anyone know that? I remember Dimitri's fight with the drums, but I never knew about the fight with the guitar. These are things that as your brother's keeper, you share because you want to make people understand that, hey, it's not just you. You're not the only one going through something, but this is what happened, how I overcame, and I'm going to help you overcome. My brother's keeper. You're responsible for me. I'm responsible for you. You see, with respect and trust, it becomes okay to disagree. It becomes okay to understand boundaries. With love, respect, and trust, it's okay to share our differences. Okay to share our struggles. Okay to share personal information. Oh no, sometimes it's hard. You know, a lot of us are very private these days. You know, and it's understandable because for some reason, knowledge is power. So, you know, when an accident happens on the highway, you know, you don't call 911. You put your phone up because you want to be the first one to put it on social media. Right? You're not calling for help. You just want to be the first one to share the news. The same way or the same mind process goes in when someone from church tells you something that's hurting them. And instead of being that positive 911, I'm going to pray with you, you go to someone else, hey, you want to know what sister so-and-so is going through? Man, I heard brother so-and-so the other day say this and I can't believe it. This is what we do. This is what the world tells us is okay. See, what there should be is a feeling of safety sharing your struggles. A feeling of comfort reasoning different views. I should not be able to have a disagreement with you and then say, I'm never going to speak to you again. We should be able to talk about things we like and don't like. I should be able to go to Pastor Doma and say, Pastor Doma, I didn't like your sermon today. Or that thing you said in your sermon today, I didn't like it. And Pastor Doma say, really, Brother Williams? I say, yeah, Pastor Doma. And he explains to me what he meant. I say, oh, okay, well, all right, well, I still don't get it. But we're still okay, right? Not that I don't say anything and he don't say anything, and next week he says, Elder Williams, I'm like, Right? You see, with respect and trust, right, all suggested qualities being your brother's keeper. Respect, love, and trust are all qualities of being your brother's keeper. But see, like I said, that's easy for me to love, right? And with the love, I get to know you and I get to respect you. But man, I got some trust issues. Anybody here got trust issues? Yeah, I got trust issues, guys. Dimitri, I got some serious trust issues. And first trust issue is with my barber. I got trust issues with my barber because I go to my barber and I say, hey, I want this haircut. And after I'm done, he looks in the mirror. I say, but that's not what I asked you for. Yeah, man, that look better. That's not what I asked you for. I go 2 or 3 times and I say, can you cut my hair this way? And he cuts it the way he feels like it. I can't trust him anymore. I got to find another barber. So my first trust issue that I would like to share is my barber. Second trust issue. Now this one goes way back, and I've healed from this. And it ties into my barber sort of sense, but, you know, my dad was my barber at the time. So the trust wasn't with the barber, though, Pastor Lee. The trust wasn't with the barber. The trust was with my brother. So, being young, you know, you want to be in the fashion, in the know, right? So, everybody was getting high top fades. So I said to my dad, I want a fade. And my dad said, I don't know how to do a fade, but do you really want a fade? I'm like, yeah, Dad, I want a fade. And he was like, all right, you know, I'll do the fade. I'll do the fade for you. And I was like, all right. My dad did his best cutting my hair. I came to church the morning, and everybody was like, oh, why not? And so I'm looking around, and everybody's like, no one's, see, this is the whole thing about being your brother's keeper. Now, someone should have came to me and said, Brother Williams, are you okay with your hair that way? But no one said anything. It was like, right? I'm talking about trust. Right? I'm talking about trust. So I go back home the day. Now I'm not at the trust part yet. So hold on to your seat. I'm not at the trust part yet. I go home and I say to my dad, nobody likes my hair. And he's like, so what do you want me to do? I said, I want you to fix it. I want you to fix it. So he said, all right, I'm going to fix it. He takes everything off. Now, initially when this happened, I was afraid of this because I didn't think I could wear this. But my wife says it's okay, so I guess I'm all right. But back then as a teenager, I couldn't do it. And as I said before, my dad spent a lot of time with my cousin Steve in showing him things that in the future, my cousin Steve would pass down to me, share the knowledge with me. I came back to church the evening, and Molov had to sing. And we go upstairs in the choir room, and I put my hoodie on. I had my hoodie on. They were like, yo, they was like, we got to sing. And I was like, I ain't singing. It's like, yo, but you're the first tenor, you got to sing. I said, I'm not singing. And so we're in the room, and we walk up to the front of church. I got my hood on, I come up front, and they're like, you can't go up there like that. And I said, all right. So we go upstairs, and all the guys are like, hey, Jay, what's going on, man? What's going on? And I said, yo, my dad cut my hair. And he said, you mean, but we knew about your hair from this morning. I was like, nah, he cut it lunchtime. First of all, I probably shouldn't have asked him to fix it on the Sabbath, but that's another story. So he goes, and we're up in the room, and I'm sitting there like, I think I was the youngest guy in the group at that time. And I sit there, and my cousin says to me, yo, Jay, whatever it is, man, we'll get through it. And I love him, I respect him, and I trusted him. I took the hood off. Who was the first one to laugh? I tell you, no. If I didn't love singing, I'd have left. That's it. But the way he laughed broke me inside. And I don't think he knew it because I didn't get mad at him or say, how could you do that? I was just like, and I went and I sang because I had to sing, and I did what I had to do. And I was like, all right, but I'm gonna deal with him later. But I can't believe, my cousin who I trusted laughed at me when my dad took. I wasn't mad at my dad. He did what a father would do. He was like, all right, I'm gonna help you out. But my cousin I had trust issues after that with people, right? I had trust issues with my mechanic. Well, not my mechanic, Austin. If you hear this, please come back from Florida. So I love working on cars, right? But there are times when I don't have time to work on the car, so I take it to the mechanic. Most times I'll go to the mechanic, I'll say, show me what the problem is, and if I have the time, I'll go home and fix it. If I don't have the time, I'll pay you to fix it. Here's why I end up doing the things myself and why my car is still not done. Because I would take the car to the mechanic, I would say, don't give the car a tune-up until you find a problem. I'd come back and say, yeah, man, the car tune-up, but I still hear the noise. I couldn't find it. But I said to you, don't tune the car up until you find a problem. Because for me, I'm not gonna drive the car with that sound. And that happened more than once. So my issues with mechanics, my trust issues with mechanics is very bad, right? But that's trust issues, right? Now, it's something I have to work on, and the more I love and respect, my trust gets built, right? And is that okay? Is that okay? Is it okay to know that I have trust issues? All right. I love this story. When Joshua was getting baptized last week, Dimitri said, man, I waited for this day to come. The fact that it's really happening is a blessing. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. And then Joshua jumps in, and his response is priceless. Joshua says, I can't believe this day came too. God be working in mysterious ways. And he says, this is what like hit me. He said, I can't wait to officially become a GC member and live that new lifestyle. And that made me feel like, Dimitri has a brother's keeper mentality. Because the fact that he was excited about Joshua, and he didn't keep it to himself. He let everybody know, this makes me happy. And Joshua said, I can't wait to do what you do. I can't wait to live like you live. I can't wait to be about that Christian life. And so to me, that was awesome. That was awesome, and because of like I said, I have trust issues. I had to apologize to Pastor Lee one week. You know, like when Pastor Lee first came, he said something to me, and I didn't give him a chance. I didn't give him a chance. He said something to me that another pastor said to me. Right, Gary? You know that those statements, and he was like, I've been there before. But I didn't ask him to elaborate on it. I didn't go to him and say, I didn't like what you just said because I heard that. I just shut him down. I just shut him down. And I'm thinking to myself, how can I trust Pastor Lee if I can't respect him or love him? And I realized that you have to change your perspective. You have to give everyone a chance. I can't treat Nigel based on the way Gary treats me. Right? I can't treat Wendy based on the way LaToya treats me. You know, I can't treat Jacob based on the way Jakari treats me. I can't do it. You're not supposed to, right? Everybody is on a level playing field, right? So I ask you today, can I trust my church family? Can I trust my church family? I hope I don't rock your boat. You see, because after the incident, I felt like I couldn't be here. See, I felt like I wasn't welcomed here. See, I felt kind of like Whitney Houston in the Bodyguard movie. I was getting hate mail, hearsay, cold shoulders, empty stares. But I wanted someone to approach me. I wanted someone to have a conversation with me. I wanted to know why I wasn't accepted. I wanted to know what was going on in your mind. Because you see, like I said, with love, respect, and trust, I should be able to share my differences with you. If you heard I did something, you should be able to come to me and say, Brother Williams, why did you do that? And I, in turn, should be able to explain myself. And then we say, oh, okay, well, what you did bothered me. And I say, well, I apologize for that, but I felt that what I did was okay. And we move on, right? Not that I'm now missing half my church because there was a lack of love, respect, and trust. You see, God asked Cain, why are you so angry? Why has countenance fallen upon you? He said, if you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you don't do well, sin lies at your door, and its desire for you. But you should rule over it. See, when you don't do well, sin lies at your heart's door. When you complain, you invite sin in. When you don't ask God, when you don't seek God in your frustration, sin awaits your conscious thoughts. And I don't believe there'll be any positivity or that much positivity when sin goes through your heart's door. See, what I need us to understand is that God wants us to love, respect, and trust each other. And it may be hard, right? But at the end of the day, he wants us to stay together. And if we don't love each other, if we don't respect each other, if we don't trust each other, then we are going to be divided to where the devil can pick us off one by one. God says we should rule over sin. Should you be your brother's keeper? Should you be your brother's keeper? Well, according to G Money and Nino Brown, we all we got. Anyone in here leave church on Sabbath and feel like they're in a family outside on the sidewalk? Anyone ever go to their job and say, man, is anyone else here Seventh-day Adventist? Does anyone else here believe in Jesus? Does anyone else in here follow Christ? Do you feel alone at work? We all we got. It starts here. It starts here. Am I my brother's keeper? Cain was so angry and jealous of his brother Abel that he killed him. We may not physically kill someone, but we do mentally. Some of us do the same thing with our words and our actions. When God asked, where is Abel? Cain said, I don't know. And he asked, am I my brother's keeper? What he was really saying is, my brother is not my problem. When someone in church is struggling, God may be beckoning to you to go speak to that person. And you in turn say, God, that's not my problem. When someone in church is struggling, you say, I got bills too. Their bills ain't my problem. When someone is unhappy, a young person is unhappy, he's not my problem. I got my own kids. And I tell you this right now, if you're talking to someone's child and encouraging them to do things, and your child is not doing those things, that does not mean to stop encouraging that child. Don't let the devil make you feel guilty and say it's not working in your home while you're talking. Because God is using you. Allow God to use you. When I was growing up, my dad would talk to a lot of people. He'd have a lot of counsel. My dad could be like a counselor, right? My dad would have a lot of conversations, and all the kids in the school would sit around my dad. And I'm like, yo, why these kids just sitting around my dad? And he would just talk to them. But they never once said, Mr. Williams, I'm not listening to you because your kids ain't doing nothing you telling us. They all ate it up. And to this day, if any one of them sees him, Mr. Williams, I owe you my life. Mr. Williams, you don't know how you touched me, those conversations we had. If my dad had said, my kids aren't listening to me, and look how many kids he would have missed out on being a positive impact in their life. So don't you ever think that if it's not happening where I want it to, then I'm not going to try to make it happen anywhere else. Because God is saying, if you got love, if you have respect, if you have trust, you can be a powerful impact to anyone. Anyone. And I need you to understand that God approached Cain in love. God approached Cain in love and offered him a chance to come correct with his statement. God said, again, I'm asking you, no accusations. Where's your brother Abel? And see, Cain was just like, I don't know. And then he said, am I supposed to be responsible for him? And that's the mentality that we want to get away from. Each one, reach one. Each one of us in here is responsible for everyone in here. Because a lot of times, the attitude people feel, or the attitude we have, is based on our personal feelings, not knowing how God is trying to use us. But I'm here to tell you today, you are your brother's keeper. If you didn't figure it out by now, once you believe in God, you are your brother's keeper. See, God asks that we look out for each other. Think of everyone in this congregation today as your brother, as your sister. Don't focus on just your immediate family. Look past your brother, Jordan. Look past your sister. Don't focus on just the people in your immediate family, right? We are all siblings in the family of God, right? The song says, you may notice, we say brother and sister around here, right? Why do we say that? Because we're part of a family so dear. When one has a heartache, we all shed a tear. No one should be fighting alone. No one should be fighting alone. In God's family, we are all our brother's keepers. We ought to keep an eye on each other so we'll know if someone needs our assistance. So we'll know, be caring and nice. So we'll be encouraging. I wish Stephen Boss had a brother's keeper. I wish Austin Lee Edwards had a brother's keeper. I wish the teenage girl he catfished had a brother's keeper. And for those of you who don't know what catfishing is the process of luring someone into a relationship by means of a fictional online persona using social networking, right? So if you don't know the story, Austin Lee Edwards, a former state police officer, then started working in the county sheriff's office, pretended to be a teenager online to speak to another teenage girl in another state, drove all the way from Virginia to, I think it was California, where he met the girl, murdered her family, and kidnapped the girl. Right? You guys, some of you may have known the recent issue with Stephen Boss, right? Committing suicide. Not knowing what people are going through mentally. See, when people have mental health issues, they don't fake being sick. They fake being okay. You know, when someone in church is hurting, you all right? Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. But you watch them. See, God says, don't take my word for it. Love me, respect me, get to know me, trust me. So when I come to you and I say, brother Mangru, are you all right? Yeah, man, I'm good. Yeah, I know you, man. I don't like that response. But if you don't want to tell me, it's all right. But I'm going to pray for you, right? I'm not going to leave it as that, because that's the whole issue. We don't want others' burdens because we have our own. But God says it's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be there for each other. We're supposed to look out for each other. We're supposed to care for each other. We're supposed to pray with one another. We're supposed to be our brother's keeper. You see, if your brother or sister is doing something wrong, you should be able to talk to them about it, right? If they're doing something that's hurting others, you should be able to tell them about it. You know, you should not struggle to keep your faith alone. You should not fight earthly addictions alone. You should not feel alone when you sit among church members. Have mercy. The ability to make others happy as you die inside is hard to detect. I know that because I was there. And you don't really need to know what a person is going through. You can simply pray for someone knowing that God knows what that person is going through. You don't need to know the full story. You just need to know that, hey, my relationship with God has impressed me to pray with you, Sister Thiessen. I don't need to know what's going on. God impressed on my heart to pray with you, and I'm going to pray with you. And even if you don't want to pray with me, it's okay. I'm going to pray for you. Because that's the relationship that God has with you, and that's the relationship that God expects you to be a part of. Loving one another should be the most simple and profound counsel that anyone should be to. We should automatically be there, because it says in 1 John 4, verse 11 to 7, it says, "Dear friends, let us love one another, because love comes from God. Everyone who loves has become a child of God and knows God. Anyone who does not love does not know, because God is." Okay, so here is how God showed his love among us. He sent his only son to die on the cross, and he sent him that we could receive life through him. Here's what love is. It is not that we loved God. It is that he loved us, and he sent his son to die for us. Dear friend, since God loved us this much, we should also love one another. I mean, it's because of him that we all are here, right? Are you your brother's keeper? You see, I need you to understand this, right? We'll never completely agree with another person on everything. Just get that out right there. Not even my spouse or my best friend. You are who you are. That means that no one will ever have the exact viewpoint that you have, right? It could be politics, it could be money, it could be relationships, it could be religion. You are uniquely you. And so is the person next to you. So our differences are our differences, our similarities are our similarities. Even though we're all different, we can still love, respect, and trust each other. Why is it important when we clearly don't see eye to eye in each and every item? Why is it so important? Because Jesus said so. "A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another." When Jesus commanded us to love others, he didn't say that we had to agree with them first. He just said, love one another. See, a lot of times things need to make sense to us first. And Jesus says, yeah, that's a challenge right there. So I want you to focus on love. Focus on love, right? Focus on love. Because once you love someone, you get to know them, right? Then once you get to know them, you respect who they are, respect what they believe in, respect their views. And then once you see how they move and you respect that person's personality and everything about it, then you can begin to trust them and trust that they have your well-being in their interest. You see, some may say it's hard to love, but I think you're probably thinking about that love that, makes you bubbly inside and stuff like that. That's not the love we're talking about. We're talking about the love that considers others first, the love that looks for the best in you, the love that shows respect, the love that invites trust, the love that isn't selfish, the love that offers the best of who you are. You see, loving others involves pain. It means giving of yourself. You don't give of your best to the master. You can only do that if you love him. Right? Give of yourself. Love means putting your heart out for someone to potentially wound it. Whew. Oh, man. If you watch enough TV, you probably won't even do that. Because I think the psyche of getting hurt, and like I said, I never wanted to cry again. I never wanted to hurt. I never want to hurt. So it prevents me from trusting to a certain level. I had to, as I got older, be like, all right, God, you did this for me. All right, God, I'm going to trust you with this. All right, God. And we have our conversations, and we have our more and more conversations to build me up to where I can truthfully say, yeah, I can trust again. I can love again. I can respect. Love means being selfless and thinking about the needs of others before we think about our own. I got bills to pay. You got bills to pay. But I got a job. Maybe I can call the company and say this bill's going to be late and give you that money so you can pay your bill. I'm just saying. It could be something like that. We'll never love someone without discomfort accompanying it. It isn't easy, and it's sometimes unnatural, but loving others is something we're called to do as followers of Christ. Even with those who don't agree, even with those who we don't agree with. I mean, especially those we don't agree with. I mean, how easy is it to love someone you don't agree with? I didn't say how hard it is. Because we know it's hard. How easy is it? God says it should be easy. There will always be things that we agree to disagree on. It could be the way we do our finances. Some people choose to live debt-free. Some people choose to live paycheck to paycheck. It could be where we decide to start or end our days. Some people like to get up 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and start their day. Some people get up at midday. Those are differences. You can't say, man, you're lazy. If I get up at 12, I get up at 12. It's what I do. Right? It's the time we spend being positive. Let's be positive, right? It could be more of a serious difference in concerns of politics. You like Trump. I like the guy in office now. Social issues. It could be like you like social media. I don't like social media. It could be current events. You like what Russia's doing. I like what they're not doing. But you understand what I'm saying? But being okay to have these conversations. It should be okay for us. I should be able to talk to anyone in here about anything and not feel less of a person. Loving others while disagreeing with them at the same time is possible. And God said it. And if God said it, then I believe it. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. Make sure you are as well. God bless.